Good morning, everybody. And I say good morning, even though things are down. But this is the Investing Bros live show where we go live every single weekday, Monday through Friday, 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you know what? This is the channel that we are going to be known for. We are first of all, one of the first ones in the morning that is helpful. It's non-toxic. It dives into TA, it dives into news, it dives into sentiment, and we give you everything you need to make sure that you are well on your way to making some wise investments. And guess what? Great opportunities are in the space right now as we have been dipping over the last 24 hours in a way that actually looks eerily familiar in a different direction than what we just saw here a couple of months ago. We got a lot of things still coming out. One of the biggest stories that dropped yesterday was the question mark: is Ethereum actually a security? We had the CFTC saying no. We had the New York Attorney General saying yes. What is going to happen to Ethereum and proof of stake coins? We'll talk about that and a lot more. We'll also be diving into these charts because, of course, we're crashing on the news like Silvergate Bank closing down. But guess what? It's not just crypto banks crashing. It's the one getting the most press coverage, but we're also watching normal financial banks also have problems. What does this mean for the economy? We also got job reports this number. We got a lot to discuss over the next hour, so make sure, go ahead and strap on in, click that like button, subscribe to the channel, and we're going to get going here. But first, I want to introduce my co-host this morning, and that is Army Piper. How are you doing, my friend?
Brother, I am doing fantastic. I am in DCA heaven, so.
Nice. When you say DCA, what did you DCA last night? Did you DCA early this morning? Where'd you go in at?
I DCA'd this morning on some XRP because it's got a nice it's near its bottom, which is at 34 cents or so. And so I got a little bit more XRP. I also put in an order for some Ethereum and it almost got picked up. So close. So it's okay.
I think you'll get another swing at it. I put in chat this morning in the poll, what do you guys think is going to happen? Where do we actually get a bounce? 18,000, are we going to be setting new lows? At the moment, our community is still in the camp of the bulls saying 18,000 will be a good bounce, with 64% saying so. 36% is saying, now 35% saying new lows. Make sure you cast your votes in there. How many people do we even have watching this morning? We got about 50 people watching with 30 likes. Go ahead and get those likes up. Let's get those votes up. We're about to read chat and see who is here, but one of them, a special shout out to Kelly Kellum in the chat. By the way, yesterday was his birthday. I got to go be on his show, the BitLab Academy show at 10:30 yesterday. Make sure to go back and watch that. Great episode. He had some great guests, but happy day after birthday to Kelly Kellum, if you guys did not get the chance to wish that upon him. Let's read some other names here in chat, and then we'll get going, because, again, we got a lot of ground to cover this morning. We have a first for a new first commenter of the day, and that is Eric Wallen coming in with the first comment. And you know what? We got to give a special shout out. Not far behind was a mellow fellow. He had a fantastic streak of being the first commenter. And as I told him in chat, all streaks come to an end, but they just give way for new streaks to begin. So we'll see a mellow fellow start a new streak here very soon. But some other people in chat, Stephen E. Shrum, shout out to Papa Shrum. Even with his son not being here, he's still coming in, bringing in those views, smashing those likes. So big shout out to Papa Shrum here. Brian Hoskins is here this morning. Great to see you, Brian. I know you sometimes got to miss the show for work, but great to see you pop in here. Mike Play is here. Elliot Locke is here. Mr. Bitcoin, which, by the way, Mr. Bitcoin left us a super chat already saying, where is it? I got to scroll down to it. He said that 1 pound of coffee for the office on him. Thank you so much, Mr. Bitcoin. I think T. Shroom will single-handedly drink the entirety of that super chat, and I guarantee you could probably get it done within like 2 days.
I'm going to be driving out there to Gainesville from Texas to get some of that coffee.
You're going to pick some up?
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect. Let's read some other names here. CBD Suddy is here saying he was the 11th. Hey, everyone's got to have their own levels here. Let's see who else is here. Steve B is here. Justin Eubanks is here. Cryptex, one of our moderators. I think I also skipped Crypto Sec Guy. I don't know how I missed his name. We got two great moderators in here. Who else is here? Joe Watkins is here saying, what the freak, and I'm going to say freak, even though he says W2F, happened. We're going to talk about that and a lot more in the show today, Joe. So just go ahead and strap on in. Yair Navarro is here. Gia S is here. Big shout out to Gia S. I know this was really big on our minds, Gia. It was so good to hear everything with your daughter is going more positively. For those who didn't know, Gia's daughter had some health problems more recently, and things were looking scary. But miracles still happen. Gia, we are so happy, and we're still here with you. I know there's probably still more recovery to come, and just know that your family here in crypto loves you and your daughter. We're still praying for a complete 100% recovery, and she gets even better than she was before. But it's so good to hear she's doing better. Elo Brown is here this morning. The classic IT guy is here. Ninja Glock. Let's get a couple more here, and then we'll go ahead and jump on in. I forgot we also have to do the quote of the day. You got to get all these things in here. So when T-Shoom's back, he'll keep me on track, making sure I'm not skipping anything. Let's see a couple more names, and then we'll move on. A lot of repeats, a lot of people. Crypto JMP is here. Shout out to him. And let's get one more. I said Elo Brown, Joe Nickel, and last one, Crypto Ben Franklin. Thank you to everybody who is in chat. We got 86 people, almost 90 people in chat right now. Thank you to all of you guys. We've recently passed 2,500 subscribers in less than 3 months of being a channel. You guys are phenomenal. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to see where this channel continues to go. Let's start off here. Before we jump in, we're going to do macro outlook, because we did get some job reports this morning and what that means. But let's start off with, I feel like a very fitting quote of the day. Go ahead and share my screen here, Piper. Patience is not passive waiting. Patience is active acceptance of the process required to attain your goals and dreams. This is by Ray Davis. And guess what? Where we are sitting in the market right now, I cannot think of a better quote that you guys can kind of try to integrate into your lives. As some of you, I mean, again, we talked about this earlier this week. 3 weeks ago, we're sitting here waiting for 28, 30,000. Everything has flipped on its head. We're heading down. We're sitting here asking that question. And by the way, that poll is updated. 61% still saying we're going to bottom out at 18,000, which means we got closer to 40, still thinking we might hit new lows. No matter what happens, though, patience is required. But patience doesn't mean just sitting around and doing nothing. This is the time to be digging in. If you've made mistakes recently, how can I learn from those mistakes? If I'm, if I'm successful, what did I do that was right that I can continue to learn? This is a season of learning and patience. And guess what? Long term, I can go ahead and just spoil every single cryptocurrency influencer's channel today. Long macro term, we're still going up and to the right. The question is, what are we doing in the shorter term? So let's go ahead, Piper. Let's go ahead and transition here over into some macro outlooks. Go ahead and break down for us what we're seeing from those job reports and anything else that we should be aware of this morning on a more macro view.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So this morning we had the non-farm payrolls that came out. Basically what this is all payroll jobs that are out there available on the market that don't deal with farm, right? Because farm's seasonal. So I will point out that previously we were at 517,000. This report will actually recalculate old data, and this was expected to actually drop by over 200,000 jobs. It only dropped from 517,000 to 504,000. So that was interesting right off the bat. For new jobs, the consensus is that it was going to be 205,000 new jobs added. 210,000 was the forecast on that. We actually came in at 311,000 jobs. So this is very bullish information on the macroeconomic market here. But what's interesting here and why we've seen a drop in the Dixie in the past hour, actually it would be the past 30 minutes, is because it was previously 3.4% was the unemployment rate in the United States. You just played this thing with Elizabeth Warren and Jerome Powell this week talking about that, and he said 3.4% is what we were currently at. Consensus was that it would be 3.4% still. Forecast was still going to be 3.4%. However, we came in at 3.6%, which means unemployment numbers are going up. And that believe it or not, bearish for the workforce of America, bullish for the markets. And that is why we are seeing the Dixie drop, because this now means that Jerome Powell is going to be seeing the self-fulfilling prophecy, right, of the unemployment numbers going up. Well, here's your 0.2%, right? So he's now got to recalculate. The Fed has to recalculate. Are they going to do 50 basis points? Are they going to do 25 basis points? We saw earlier this week that we had flipped from 25 basis points being the strong likelihood at around 70% and 50 basis points at 30%, and it had flipped spots. So you had the 50 basis points that actually was coming in at 70%. And if we jump over and let's do a little refresh here just to make sure, but
wow,
it is now at 53% likelihood of 25 basis points again. And we are on our way back up. This was at 56 just a few minutes ago, but this morning this was very low and 50 basis points was very high. So you can see how even that little 0.2% difference in the unemployment rate has instantly dropped the Dixie and changed this over, because now he's got to pause, think about the next step forward before they make that call on 50 basis points or 25 basis points on March 22nd. The big deciding factor for that, in my opinion, is going to be next week on CPI data that's released on March 14th.
That is absolutely massive, Piper. That is some great stuff. And I know we're going to transition into TA here in just a second, but I think we should camp out a little bit right here and kind of discuss this. So I want to start off in case anyone else is thinking this, because guess what? My brain is thinking this. This is a little confusing, right? Because just a month ago, job reports coming in with unemployment being lower than expected was a good thing. Now that it's higher, it's also a good thing. So I could understand people being a little confused here. Correct me if I'm wrong, Piper. This is kind of my way of thinking about it. Maybe you have a different way of thinking about it. But here about a month ago, remember how bullish the coal market was. Even Jerome Powell, for the first time in months, switched to being a little more dovish, kind of giving us that hopium that we were going to have a very soft landing that we've been wanting for a long time. And so with his narrative being there that, hey, it looks like things are being fixed, inflation's going down, when job reports stayed low, it was almost a, hey, look at this. We've had interest rates be super high and yet job market staying strong. This is bullish. But now that he's flipped back hawkish, now that he, especially with the words he used in Congress last week, where he said, it brought to light that they are expecting a 1% increase in unemployment. Now it's bullish because the whole market flipped to the scared mode and they were seeing the unemployment happen. And this is the confirmation to the investors. Hey, this process is starting. Powell's going to watch this and see this as data confirming that he's right, that this has got to happen. And then the other thing to flip, I'm sitting here wondering, Piper, and I want you to kind of, again, play with this one, go back and forth with me. But we talked about this last week, how fast we flipped from being sure there was going to be 25 basis points. Then yesterday, just yesterday, less than 24 hours ago, we're looking at 80% prediction we're going to have 50 basis points. And now this morning, we're swinging back over and we're saying it's going to be 25. Go to my screen real quick, Piper. The other thing that's been a massive, massive dip this morning is the Fear and Greed Index. The Fear and Greed Index, remember, we've been talking about this, has been as high up into the 60s here more recently. But this morning, we are back in fear, down at 34. A big increase. Just literally, this is, okay, what date is this? March 8th. So we're talking about 2 days ago, we're still sitting up at 50. Here back on, this is the 16th of February. So a month ago, we're sitting at 62. We are dipping very, very fast down to 34. This will mean a lot. But Piper, kind of, let's keep unpacking this. What are your thoughts about everything I just talked about right there with the unemployment numbers flipping for what they mean being bullish or being good news, what we're looking at with that future prediction for CME, and then for what the interest rate is going to be, and then also this Fear and Greed Index. Oop. I don't know why, but I cannot hear you. I don't know.
Now you can.
There we go. Perfect.
Buttons. Too many buttons over here. So what I've noticed is, when you got this fear and the blood is in the streets, that's when you want to move into these markets, right? Not when everyone's running away. You want to run in. And it takes some courage and it takes some patience to wait for it, But I mean, the emotions are high right now. Everyone's got a lot of uncertainty. There's a whole lot of things going on with, what's going to happen with crypto, what's going to happen with regulation, what's going to happen the um, with the banks going on, because we got an article today that we're going to be talking about the banks. I mean, there's a lot of
Yep.
reasons for people to be scared, but
Yep.
when there are a lot of reasons for people to be afraid, there are a whole lot of reasons for people to be bullish too, because
Mm-hmm.
all of those factors causing that fear is creating opportunity. I've said this before, and I think I may have said it on the show, but when you look at chaos, the actual Chinese symbol of chaos, it's actually two Chinese words, symbols put together, and it is opportunity, and it's opportunity and caution. So when you have all this chaos, be cautious and look for the opportunity. That's my take on it.
Wow, this good stuff, guys. There's a lot to unpack here. This is the last show of the week, but this will continue to pick up next week, especially with our inflation numbers coming out on the 14th. Make sure you guys come back in and stay tuned next week. Let's shift over and let's do some technical analysis. There's a lot to unpack here today. Might go a little past 9:30, but it's going to be okay. Got a lot of different charts to look at. The first thing I want to kind of start off by kind of talking about some confusion that has been in this space over the last 24 hours. So I saw a lot of people posting yesterday. A lot of people posting. And shout out to the technical analysts. They are great analysts. I just have a different opinion than them. A lot of people were saying last night that we had filled the CME futures. What they were looking at is this gap here. Let me go ahead and fix it right here for you. What they were looking at is saying, all right, look where this wick is right here. As long as we come down and fill down towards 20,000, we should be good here on the daily chart. I want to clarify and make sure, there's difference of thought, but this is the way I've always been taught it, and I'm going to explain it the way I thought. It doesn't matter because we've come down to filled mine as well, but my chart had the gap all the way down at 19,535 because that is where the daily candle closed. There is a little bit of confusion here. I was talking with Piper, no idea what this chart is doing because if I go over the 12-hourly chart, we technically had a close all the way up here at 19,900. But on the daily chart, this is the one that a lot of analysts are using to talk about this gap. It came down all the way to 19,520. So yesterday, technically, in my opinion, we did not fill the gap. We have done so this morning. Look here as this wick, and that's all we need is we need a wick to come down, fill all of this up. This is where the candle closed on the 13th, Friday the 13th. This is where it opened up on this is Tuesday the 17th. Either way, officially now, the gap has been closed now that we have seen a wick on Bitcoin drop below 20,000 down towards 19,500. Wanted to get that out of the way as we move forward. Does not mean that the dip and the crash is over, but it is a good sign because we've been talking about this for a very long time. Technically speaking, we have been talking about it ever since when we started making this move up here, probably back on January 20th. Are we going to? When are we going to? How are we going to come back and fill the gap? Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It is official. We have done so. Might not be the bottom, but it is a good sign. It's something that we need to do for a long time. Let's shift over to the traditional Bitcoin chart. Let's look here. So something that I'm keeping my eyes on still is I'm still looking at this golden pocket. Let's go back to the dip that we had back here in November. Let's go up to the top here. This golden pocket is still going to be very important down here around 19,200 all the way down towards 18,900. In fact, then it gets even worse. When we're talking about 18,000, you're coming down here to form a resistance. Let me move this line just a little bit right here. Down to form resistance down at 18,400, possibly even coming back down towards the 0.786 at 17.5. Why am I calling for something right here in the middle, 18.4, maybe 18,000? Why are a lot of analysts calling this for this? I don't know if they're using the exact same reason, but this is one of the ones you should be thinking about. So we had a lot of action going on over here. If you're subscribed to Elliott Wave theory, we had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phase play on an Elliott Wave. Speaking of Elliott Wave, make sure you are in our free Discord because today, 3 to 4, we have an Elliott Wave expert. And I'm not talking about someone who's just been studying Elliott Waves for years. I'm talking about somebody who trades it regularly with Fibonacci and Sharp Prime. He uses the dynamic trio of those things to crush it on his trades, you make sure you not only join our Discord. If you guys get Chart Prime and you to join the Discord in the premium version, you guys get to see all of his trades. It's like daily he's posting like 300% gains on his trades. Absolute freak. But anyways, I kind of got away from what I was going with here. My point here is this was a very, very violent third wave. Very violent third wave. And one of the things that he was teaching me and Piper the other day, and he's going to talk more about in our webinar today, is that when you see a violent wave 3, when you see a huge wave 3, watch for, once you peak out, for a pullback down below the golden pocket, closer towards 0.786, somewhere more in the middle. So that's kind of where that's where I'm getting 18,000, 18.4 from. I know there's other things as well. If I were to pull up our chart right here, let me go down to the 12-hour chart because it's giving me a little more data. If I were to pull up our chart prime information, we got a lot of heavy support levels down here at these levels. Usually this orange line, that is our 4-hour chart, making a prediction that there's strong support down there. We got the number 2 support line on the, I believe this would be the daily chart, coming down at 18.7. We have the 12-hour chart calling for strong support at 1800. So are we going to hit 1800 perfectly? Are we going to hit 18.4? Not necessarily certain. It's going to be a zone in here that we're hitting, but I do believe strong support will come in at those levels. Now, look, even staying right here, just using Chart Prime, you are going to see we dropped a little bit below it, but we are starting to kind of find some support right here at the 5th strongest level of support on Chart Prime, down. While that level is at 19.8, we did wick below it. Going out to the daily chart, we also found some support here at Dynamic Reactor, although we're kind of working at the moment to break this. So do we get a little bit of a rally here? Do we break through, crashing it down? We will have to see. Going away from Chart Prime for just a second, I will bring that back up. I also want to pull up here on the daily chart the SMAs. Now, this is very important right here, and that is talking about the 200 SMA. This is something that was a very big deal back here. Let me go ahead and pull down my Fibonacci. Not as important right now. It just kind of muddies up the screen. This was a big deal when we not only broke through the 200, we smashed through the 200. This was a major move for the bulls. However, at the moment, we have wicked below it. Not a big problem. As long as we close above it, we're okay. But this is another thing that keeping an eye on. I think there's a decent chance we find some temporary support right here. This is part of dips. It happens all the time. Even during this nice little rally, we have a couple little dips. It doesn't seem like much, but technically speaking, after this rally right here on the daily chart, we did drop in one day 6%. We found a little bit of resistance back here before we continue that little rally. Same thing. Could we temporarily not slash through it? Clearly, that's not what we want to do at the moment. Could we bounce here at the 200, maybe come back up, retesting this former support level resistance before we resume our rally down to the golden pocket, maybe even crash lower? I'm keeping my eyes on this rising level of support right here. That's another thing that kind of corresponds right into that 18K to 18.4 level. This is multiple touches here, rising level of support. If bulls can hold on to this level, we're still setting higher lows. It's not really that big of a problem in the long term. It just is a nice time to buy some more Bitcoin. Now, a lot going to unpack there. I'm going to kind of pause right there, giving you guys a lot of levels. Watch the 200. Watch these levels right in this area. There's a lot of support sitting there. We got the golden pocket. Let's also take a second and just back up and remind ourselves of a couple other things. Now, I was on Kelly's show yesterday. I don't know if Kelly's still in chat. And I was telling them, this is still mistakes that I make. And I think you guys probably have stories just like this. Have you guys ever made a prediction, then something in the market starts to move and change, and it kind of scares you out of sticking with that thought, and you change your mind only if you had been patient, like our quote of the day said, if you had been patient, you would have found out that you were right all along? This is an area where I was right, and then I was wrong about being right, and we're back on it. Go back to January 1st, January 2nd, somewhere right, those first couple shows of January. Those who've been watching the channel will know exactly what I'm talking about. Do you guys remember when I predicted that we were going to have a nice little rally in January and February, but then to close out Q1, we were going to have a dip? That was a prediction I made back in early January. And then when we had all of this bullishness, I was like, well, maybe I was wrong. I've been wrong before. And I started to give up. Well, guess what? That's exactly what is happening here. So now let's kind of talk about that. Why? Why did I talk about a dip Q1, Q2? Why did I think this was going to happen? And this should give you guys a lot of hopium's not the right word. I don't think people should have hopium. I think people should have confidence. I think people should be reminded that things are not as bad as sometimes news and other data wants us to say. Let's go out to a more macro timeline. Let me take down my SMAs right here. Let's just kind of look. I showed this on Kelly's channel yesterday. So if you watched it, we're getting a repeat here. But let's kind of zoom out to a more macro. I'm going to go out to the weekly chart, actually. Let's go out to a more macro look of what Bitcoin's price has looked like. I'm going to turn on the log chart because I just want you guys to be able to see what this has done. I made an observation. Let's get rid of all this stuff. And I'm kind of giving away some of the information here, but we're gonna keep playing with it. Look at all of these green vertical lines. All these green vertical lines are areas where we have the halvening events. So we've had one back here in 2012, we had one here in 2016, one in 2020, and then we are primed and ready for one in 2024. You might be saying, all right, Tim, get to it. What are we talking about here? Looking at these levels, looking at what halvening event and started this official bull rally. All right, 41 weeks. Let's go fast forward to this one. So we have our halvening event in 2016. We had one more good dip back here, and it was a double bottom, but it was another good dip. After we set our bottom, started a rally, we had another good dip. Let's see how long that was before. 46 weeks. All right, so 5 more weeks than the other one, but still pretty decently close. Let's come back in here. Look, this one's going to be even shorter, but let's look here. Pandemic happened right before the halving, but look how explosively moved up after. I'm going to kind of avoid that one. Let's look at the dip that happened right before that one. We kind of pulled back right in here. This one's super short. I guess we could kind of go back even right here, 30 weeks. 30 weeks. If we were to go to 40 weeks, 46 weeks, we're actually looking at peaks and valleys. This one was a little shorter. So different, but similar. We have pullbacks within, less than a year, but a pretty good, decent amount of months before we actually have the halvening event and start the real bull rally. My whole point here is that people are freaking out and acting like, I've seen it all over the place. People are acting like, because we're crashing right now, this is the confirmation. The 4-year cycle is over. Bitcoin is in trouble. We're not going to see it the same. And guess what? They could be absolutely right. But you got to stick with trends and you got to stick with features until they break. And right now, the 4-year cycle theory is not broken. Let's look at this right here. Right now, at the time of shooting this, we still are a whole year and some change away from the halvening event, which means even if we keep bottoming here for another couple of months, we have all the way until June. Like, if we're hitting new bottoms, if we're struggling to find any momentum in June, we're still on track with the 4-year cycle system where we have these crashes that people get really bearish and they get really concerned. Even though I was not in the market back in 2015, I'll admit that. I didn't get into the market until August of 2020. So in reality, I'm actually looking at the back end of this pandemic. My point, though, is when I go back and talk to the analysts like Kelly Kellum, when I talk to the other people like BitBoy, I get to hear their stories and the momentum. There's so many others. They remember the absolute fear, the absolute chaos, the absolute, oh no, this is the end of Bitcoin. We're dying. We're dead. It's over. And it was all a little bit under a year before the halvening event. Same thing happening right here. I know I've kind of rambled on here, but I hope my point still sticks. The 4-year cycle is still very, very much in play. And whether we bottom out at 18,000 or whether we go lower down to 14 or 9 or whatever, this does not mean we're not seeing a bull rally start later on this year, in the later summer, fall area, and do you see a very bullish 2024? So I want to make sure we kind of zoom out and keep perspective. Now, it's already 9:29. Guess what we're going to do? We're going to keep going on and doing some TA because it's not done yet. I just wanted to kind of show you on Bitcoin what we're seeing happen there. Let's go off the log chart.
Before you jump in there real fast, I do want to show something else since you're on the halving talk. If you look here on, I've showed this chart before, but it's my long-term fib channel of Bitcoin, right? And this is a 3-day chart that I'm looking at here. It's funny that, the number that we were talking about on that drop range, because that's actually the 786 on this fib channel here. And that 786 right now is coming in right about 17,500. We should not break that 786. If we do, we have big problems in the markets as a whole. But you can see the golden pocket here. I mean, we traded in it for 2 months. It retested it and then came down, right? So even right now, if we continued this on, let's say we went out, for Let's see. This is today right here, the 3-day candle. So we'll be looking at out to May in a straight line leveled out. We would still be hitting that 786 in around May, June. So if you talk about May, June, May, June time period is going to, or if you talk about June, July time period, that's what $21,000 Bitcoin. If we stay within the channel of the golden pocket in that 786 all the way up to the halving event, you're talking about a $35,500 Bitcoin on the bottom and a $64,000 Bitcoin at the top at the halving event, just by simply staying inside between the golden pocket and the 786 on this long term. I mean, if I go all the way back and show it here, I mean, it's been respected multiple times. This is the first time we ever broke it. So we have to assume if the golden pocket finally got broke and now the 786 is our new bounce line for the marketplace, that would be in between the 786 and the golden pocket all the way up to the next halving. So
very good observation there, Piper. Thank you. That's really good. Let's shift over. Let's go and look at the Dixie for a second, because this is going to be that when we're looking at crypto in general. And I know, like, I want to in the future, and we have lots of plans. We want to cover more altcoins. There's a lot of different ways we're going to be doing that. But the biggest thing when we're looking at the whole market, we want to look at Bitcoin. We want to look at the Dixie. We want to look at the stock market. Right now, Dixie is wrestling with a support level. This is big news this morning. The Dixie is falling. After breaking through the 0.382 level, that was significant resistance. We're now back down below it, but I have had this channel drawn now for a little bit. Technically, we've broken below it, so we're going to have a wick stay below. The question is, what does Dixie do the rest of the time? I did think in a longer timeline, we also were in a falling trading channel. I thought we were making our way back over here, maybe towards 106, maybe down on the lower end, 105. But keep your eyes on this. Of course, this is responding what we talked about in the more macro view with those job reports coming out, what unemployment being higher than expected. This is what the Dixie's responding to. Let's take a look. As yesterday was a bloodbath for crypto, but it wasn't great for the regular stock market either. But we are finding some support. S&P 500 had a big pullback yesterday, and now the market's open. It's 9:32. We're looking right here and watching. Are we going to find this support on this former resistance level? You got to see after. Let me zoom out here. I'm on the 12-hour chart. Resistance, 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 breakthrough. And now we've had 3 different support touches. Would be very big. Would make a lot of sense for us to go ahead and hold on there. Let's look what the Dow Jones is doing. Come on, click over for me. Dow Jones technically would have a little bit more to drop before it hits its former level of resistance, but it's coming in green a little bit this morning, but a sliver of green. We got, let's see, what is this one? The NASDAQ holding up probably the best of them all, not even back down to the bottoms that we had here just a little bit ago. Gold is the one right now. It is winning the day. Gold definitely, not even just today, it's been winning the last couple of days. While everyone else seems to be burning, gold is on its way up. So make sure you guys keep these things in mind. It does look like the market as a whole is finding more support. We'll cover more of that in the stories. Last thing I want to say, though, because I kind of gave a lot of macro views so far. Let's go back over to Bitcoin. One of the reasons why I think we might have some temporary support, maybe even bounce back up towards, I think best case scenario, we come back up 21.5 and bump our heads there, which was former support. I think that's a little high. I think more realistically, we're talking about levels more like, let's pull up our market oracle right here. I think realistically, 21.5 because we got support right there. Maybe we bump our heads right here at 2,300. Don't be surprised if we come back over and find this former support level, turning it into resistance. But the pressure is still there. And this is the last thing I want to say. This is so helpful. Ever since I've added Chart Prime to what I'm doing for technical analysis, this has been amazing. But I told you guys kind of in the intro, this crash is looking eerily and weirdly similar to the rally that got us up to the 25.2. And this will be the last thing I do with TA, and then we'll shift over and we'll move into some stories here. But I think this is very important you guys see this. So in the same way, let's kind of back up over here. Let's back up to the rally. And I want to use the Chart Prime indicator here on these lower timelines. Traders, people that were shorting the market were getting absolutely wrecked back here in January and February. But look at all the calls. I mean, look at all these peak seekers. Look at all this overbought, bearish divergence. And yet, while a lot of these signals cause pauses, let's kind of zoom in here. Overbought, we paused. Overbought, we paused. Peak seeker, we actually dipped. Overbought, we paused, but we couldn't sustain any serious downward momentum. So while people were looking at these flashes and saying, oh, time to short, the market was just so explosive to the upside on these lower charts. Just look at all those flashes. And yes, we got some oversold. These signals ended up being actually fantastic because we were in uptrend. But the ones telling us, hey, it's time to sell, they didn't nail it perfectly, right? That was on the smaller timelines. Let's go up here to the daily chart and look at what it is saying. And it calls some pretty good ones right here. Overbought, yes, it flashed right here, little low, but it was this peak seeker that just about nailed it. But what we do know about what we flashed over here with this oscillator and what we can kind of take away is the massive momentum. It slowed down. It was coming to a close. When we're flashing overbought and we're getting this bearish divergence, we're kind of got that confirmation is coming to a close. You might be saying, Tim, what is your point? Well, let's go back down to the 4-hourly chart. Throughout this entire crash, look at all of these oversold. As we've moved into a bear trend, look at all these oversold, these bullish divergences. RSI is sitting super low. We got all these flashes. And I bet you people were trying to catch bottoms and enter longs, and they're just getting destroyed. And again, I don't think that this whole crash is over, but we finally, after on the daily chart, getting not much of anything. Our last oversold signal being very good. We are flashing oversold once again. I think we're going to find some very temporary support. Again, maybe a bounce of 4%, 5%, like again, right down here, we flashed down here. Maybe we see a bounce back up 4%, 5%, and then we crash once again. But it's the beginning of the end. The huge momentum, it's coming to a close. That's why we're flashing oversold on this daily chart. There's going to be one more leg down of aggressiveness, down toward that golden pocket or down towards 18.4 or so. But I do believe this crash, this secondary bear trend, it is beginning of the end. And a lot of people are going to be flooded out, and we're going to continue to see FUD articles. But watch this line up just kind of perfectly with the inflation numbers coming in low, and then Jerome Powell kind of saying, we're going to stick with 25 basis points for now. We'll keep an eye on it. And he kind of flips dovish, and it's going to get everyone's hopes back up, and we're going to actually flash back to the upside. We'll have to address what happens there, but do not be surprised to see that kind of stuff happen. And again, this is stuff I've been able to just process using the chart prime indicator. Heavily recommend it that you guys add this to your portfolio. And guess what? Right now, when you use our link below, if you go down, use the chart prime link. Not only if you wanted to buy the monthly or like get quarterly, you get 45% off with our link. But for only the next week and a half, up till March 20th, you can buy the lifetime access to chart prime for 50% off, but it's going away. Like it's going away, at least for now. We don't know when it's coming back. This is your last opportunity to go act on it right now. And I'm telling you, you guys are going to see this here every single day, but it is a complete life changer when it comes to, especially if you want to get into trading, a life changer when it comes to entering and exiting with good profitability. I've seen a lot of different indicators out there. I've used a lot of paid indicators out there. None of them have compared to Chart Prime. Make sure to go sign up for that today. Let's kind of change over, though. It's later in the show. This is crazy that it took us this long into TA, but I did think that it was important. It is time, Piper, to switch over into stories really quickly, though. We got 150 people watching. Thank you to everybody who's watching right now, but there's something you got to do, and that is smash that like button. It looks like half of you have clicked it. So I feel like if we don't have 100 likes here in the next like 4 or 5 minutes, something went wrong. Smash that like button if you are enjoying this content. Let's go ahead and jump into some of these stories. I'm going to be a little bit different today. Instead of kind of reading through articles, we're just going to kind of look at the headlines, discuss them briefly, what they mean, and then we'll keep moving on. Breaking: Bitcoin slips under 20K amid Biden budgets, Silvergate collapse. Not going to go too much into this story. I will be posting in the Discord after it is over, but this is that scapegoat that you're going to see the market use. Something that I loved about Kelly's show yesterday. Scott Melker was on, which, funny story, Scott Melker lives less than 5 miles from me, and I've never met him. We got to change that, Scott, if you're ever going to watch the show. I don't know if he has time. I think he has other stuff going on. But he said all news is noise. And while I disagree, I think there's some news is obviously very pertinent. My opinion, I talked about this yesterday in our AMA on Discord, is that the charts show us the levels. The news dictates the time it is to get down there. The charts were showing we were overbought. The charts were showing it was time to go down. But the timing of Silvergate and the timing of this Biden budget, this is what they're going to say causes the crash. All it did was speed up this dip down to 18,000. But watch news kind of pop up. We're going to, like I said, a 4%, 5% rally in Bitcoin, and people are going to think, oh, the dip is over. They're going to blame it on news, and then it's going to shift over. My whole point here, this is what's going to get the credit for this crash. Don't buy it. This was coming into space. This is just the convenient way of talking about it. There's been a lot of talk, I said, about Silvergate. Silvergate is crashing, and everyone wants to talk about that. Elizabeth Warren is saying, hey, I've been calling this for a while. I predicted this was going to crash. But it's not just crypto banks. Like, that's the big story right now is crypto is in trouble. The crypto banks are terrible. But normal banks are struggling as well. I was listening to a podcast this morning. JP Morgan had a terrible day yesterday. A lot of bigger, Bank of America had a terrible day yesterday. Silicon Valley Bank is crashing, and it's getting close. This article goes into detail on it, but it's getting closer towards going out of service. What is this and what triggered it? The SVB crisis originated after a parent organization, the SVB Financial Group, announced the sale of $21 billion of its securities that were part of its portfolio, along with which it mentioned that it held a sale of shares amounting to $2.25 billion to shore up its finances, reported Bloomberg. This move was prompted due to high deposit outflows at a bank caused by a downturn in the startup industry. The bank also reported a decline in the net interest income. Why am I talking about this? Why am I bringing up this article? Because everyone's looking at crypto and saying, or politicians are looking at crypto and they're looking at Silvergate and they're saying, look at how much of a scam crypto is. Look at how much this can ruin your money. When in reality, whether people want to admit it or not, we are at least in the beginning of a recession. Normal finances are crashing. It's not just crypto that's going down. Normal fiat is going down. Banks are going down. Crypto is going down. This is why we need smart people in power to make good decisions that don't just pad their little wallets, pad their pockets, that actually help us be a decent economy. But you're not going to hear the politicians screaming about the Silicon Valley Bank. You're not going to hear them screaming about these banks going down. More than likely, you're going to see them quietly just bail these banks out. All the while, they keep trying to point the finger at crypto, talking about how terrible it is because they are scared of it. And that's something I think that people need to walk away. Despite all the FUD that's in the space right now, you guys need to remember the reason why crypto is getting so much coverage is because they're terrified of it. They didn't talk about the crash. The news didn't discuss the crashes back in 20, what the dates of this, 20, was it 18, 9, what were the dates of these crashes? Give me just a second, guys. Unprofessional. I was on a flow and then I just ruined it. They didn't talk about the crashes we had back in 2018. Yeah. And then when the crashes we had back in 15, they only talk about it now that it is a threat to them. And for those reasons, this is actually, again, news is noise, but if you know how to process it correctly, this actually is bullish for crypto in the long run. Let's keep moving on, though, because we only got about 15 minutes here. We still got some juicy stuff. And we're going to start off here with Ethereum. In case you had not heard, very, very big development yesterday where the New York Attorney General sued KuCoin for selling securities and commodities without registration. This is the New York Attorney General, Letitia? I think Letitia? Yeah, Letitia James. Let's go with it. She did this very interesting. Her reason for suing them, the way she found this out was she went on to buy and sell crypto on the exchange just to test if she was able to do it. And then she comes out, haha, got you. I was able to do it. So now you guys are security. Pretty much this entire she goes into detail here that how we test is applicable to tokens is illustrated by recent federal authority. She's sitting here watching Gary Gensler, who seems to be probably a very good friend of hers, just take L after L after L. And she says, you know what? We'll take this into our own hands. We'll go ahead and make it illegal in the state of New York. All the while, the same thing, and we're going to talk about this here in just a second, Piper. We also yesterday had the CFTC chair call Ethereum a commodity. He didn't only just call Ethereum a commodity. He went into detail. He also thinks that we have that stablecoin should be commodities. Down here, something I thought interesting. According to Gensler, proof-of-stake cryptocurrencies such as Ethereum passed the Howey test, which refers to U.S. Supreme Court. Okay, not as important as I thought it was. I don't know why I highlighted that. My point is we're going to see a wrestling match start to happen between this guy right here, Rostin Benham, this lady. Is there a photo of her? This article. Well, if you look at this Twitter article, there's a little photo of her. We're going to see a war between them, and Gary Gensler is going to be doing his best to help. There's a lot of relationships between New York and the Fed. It actually, I was reading an article. I don't think I have it up here. I was reading an article earlier this morning talking about how much the Fed develops and works with New York policy to implement it into what they are doing as well. So for now, nothing terrible has happened. For now, Ethereum is not officially deemed a security, but it is going to be very, very important. And before we go there, I want to kind of get Piper's idea on this. There's another article put in our purview this morning about just breaking down what happens if Ether is a security. But Piper, let's stop right there. Let's pause. What are your thoughts after hearing this news from New York about Ethereum? Do you think this is something to really be concerned about, or do you think that this is just like a fart in the wind? It's more noise, just trying to distract and flood people out of purchasing Ethereum.
Well, first off, I want to talk about that guy from the CFTC there that you showed on that picture, because if there's going to be a fight between him and Gary Gensler, my money's on him. Just because he looks like he can take Gary Gensler. First off,
if we put them in an octagon,
yeah.
Listen,
yeah.
I don't know what Roston's past life looks like, but I could see him being a former UFC fighter. He just has that kind of look to him. Maybe that's profiling. Maybe that's not good. I don't know. I don't mean any harm by it, Roston. I respect you and I think you're awesome. Thank you for choosing our side in this. But you do look like somebody I wouldn't want to take in a fight. So.
But as far as the actual info of it being a security, I personally think that if it is the future of the internet, Web3, internet's a commodity, not a security. If you put the Howey test to how much money people actually, why do you advertise on the internet, on Web 2.0, right? You advertise on it because it brings you back money through a third party. If you looked at it from that direction, that passes the Howey test. So why is the internet not a security? And anyone who pays to advertise on it now has to pay money. The company that takes the money for the advertisement has to pay security funds, right? Register. It makes no sense. You could twist anything to be a security. I think at the end of the day, when you look at the utility purpose of Web3, and which is going to be built on things like layer ones like Ethereum, I think you're going to find that it fits more into the realm of a commodity utility than it does a security. Just because the Howey test, you can pass the Howey test. I mean, we've discussed this before. You can manipulate anything with a third party, an item, and a expected return to make it pass the Howey test. The regulation is out of date. It needs to be updated to blockchain technology. But the problem is no one can update it to be what it should be because no one has the knowledge that they need to write policy and regulation on blockchain technology. They're ignorant and they shouldn't be in the seat. They should look for someone who actually is a subject matter expert on blockchain technology and finance regulation and say, we need this updated. But everyone's afraid to do that because God forbid that they aren't the one that gets the credit for updating regulation. We just a lot of people need to get out of their seats and move on. So,
yeah, I'll tell you why they're doing that in just a second. First, there was a super chat that I missed. Cryptex said, if you're not smashing the like, what are you doing? And I agree 137% with that super chat. Getting back into this conversation, though, go back to my screen here, Piper. This is an article on CoinDesk this morning, kind of breaking down what happens if Ether is security. A lot of this stuff, I'm not going to get the details of it because it's not even that important. What I thought was important was the quote from this lawsuit by James, the New York Attorney General, talking about the shift to proof of stake significantly impacted the core functionality and incentives for owning ETH because ETH holders now can profit merely by participating in staking. Here's what I think is absolutely so stupid about the way that that non-crypto people, the government, agencies, politically correct people will go after it. Did we not just have a huge ordeal last year, Piper, last 2 years, with outrage about proof of work and how terrible it was for the environment, and it needs to shift to proof of stake, and that would be a much more, a safer way to do it. Like even the U.S. government was saying, oh, I don't know about Bitcoin because of its energy use, but I think maybe Ethereum and things, or not Ethereum, these proof of stake protocols are a lot better. And now they've shifted over to proof of stake, and now it's like, oh, well, no, now that you're proof of stake, now you have problems, and we don't really like you. This is all just a front of what we're being of what we're seeing happen over the last 2 years, and we're going to see it for the next couple of years. And it is the fight. They don't even know what they're talking about. They're just going to try to find some sort of an excuse to fight decentralized currency. And that shifts us into our next grouping of stories. And that is an article coming out about Swift moving to the second phase of a CBDC test after a successful test run. The interbank messaging system decision to move to the next phase comes after a successful test run, I don't really know what that means, of CBDCs from different central banks around the world. Swift, 24% of central banks will be ready to launch a CBDC within the next 2 years. Ultimately, they don't know anything about cryptocurrency when it comes to decentralization other than it takes their power away. So if they can spew FUD over here for proof of work and FUD over here for proof of stake and FUD over here for decentralized exchanges that don't make them money and put money in their pockets, but all the while working behind the scenes so that their centralized banks and centralized systems can control, this is their real move. They're fighting. They realize that they've lost the battle against cryptocurrency. They have lost the battle against blockchain technology. It is going to take over the world by storm. Every single one of us watching should feel very confident. I have conversations with people still all the time saying, I don't know about blockchain. I don't know about crypto. Well, guess what? It doesn't matter what you think. Even the government agrees blockchain technology is the way. The problem is who controls it and who makes money off of it. And I'm preaching to the choir here, but watch, just as we're doing all this stuff, watch them just continue to try to spew FUD if a coin is decentralized so that they can get this little thing in here. The good news is we do have people on our side like Congressman Tom Emmer talking about here. There's an article. He talks about CBDCs could be easily weaponized to spy on U.S. citizens, says the congressman. Of course, again, don't need to go into details of this article. I'll post it in Discord. But we talked about that yesterday. Like CBDCs, where are we seeing them be kind of more successful? Where are we seeing them take off? Australia, I know, is using CBDCs. China's been exploring and experimenting with CBDCs. We know Canada's going to go after those. These are countries we do not want to emulate. And I'm glad we have congressmen like Tom Emmer trying to fight for our side of decentralization. But we have got to, as enthusiasts, as crypto enthusiasts, make our voices known and not fall. We're traders here. I'm a trader. I'm investing. I want to make money. But the right to make money in a way that is beneficial will depend upon where our government sits and holds cryptocurrencies being decentralized. Watch them just continue to push off, and try to bring in the centralized systems, which, by the way, guys, you'll probably be able to make money from centralized coins. You'll be able to make money off of central bank coins. There will be a way. It's not just going to be stable coins. They're going to do other things that have cryptocurrencies you can invest in, but it will be nowhere near as free and as good for society as what we currently have with decentralized coins. Piper, what are your thoughts there? Anything to add to that kind of that argument, that point?
Yeah, I think, I mean, when you can track every single little thing that you do with your money, I do think it's an overstep because obviously, the government's going to collect whatever data they can so that they can strip, weaponize the CBDC and then weaponize the IRS to come at you because, you were the 17-year-old kid that was washing cars on the weekend and you didn't pay taxes on your car wash business, like at what point do they go, we've got your 7-year-old daughter Penny for making too much money on her lemonade stand 2 summers in a row. Like it's going to get ridiculous. So I do want to point something out here real fast. A little update. We are now at 70.
Crap.
Yep, 73. It is climbing. It is climbing quickly. We are back higher than what we were before this whole drop this week when this all flipped. So,
yeah, Bitcoin. It's funny as it's doing that. Bitcoin is dipping here on the hour chart. We're back below 20,000 at the moment. Be something to kind of keep an eye on right here. Definitely setting up some bullish diversion on the hourly chart. But like we talked about before, sometimes these dips, these lower time frames, they don't give you a full picture on it.
Well, also look at the Dixie right now. The Dixie's here on the top left. It's dropping like crazy too, while everything else is dropping.
The support. Yep, it broke that support we were talking about early on. So yeah, keep an eye on there. Don't be surprised though on the Dixie. Go to my screen real quick. If it flips around, comes back up, and hits resistance on this one, that's pretty common. I want to go back though. You can go off my screen. Go back to, there's a comment Matt C made in chat saying, don't forget that the library case has now set precedents that the secondary sales of tokens aren't considered security sales. Matt is 100% right. And I think at the moment, that's why I told you guys, don't freak out about this whole thing with Ethereum just yet, because At the moment, I do think that the court is on our side of saying, hey, no, these do not pass the Howey test. Just because a lot of people can make money on people staking it does not necessarily deem it a security. What I will say, though, is just watch them fight like crazy. There was something I saw this morning, I believe Watcher.guru reported. So we've been following this drama of Binance.us acquiring Voyager, right? So at first they're going to acquire Voyager. Everyone's excited. Then the SEC comes in and says, no, we're blocking that. That's not going to happen. And a judge decides, nope, terrible arguments there, Gary. Terrible arguments, SEC. This is inconsistent. They have absolutely every right to purchase this. If Voyager wants to sell, then we should let Binance.us do that, right? Well, guess what? We felt good about it. And now the U.S. government is suing and appealing the whole case. They're not happy with the courts. They don't care about precedents allowing us. They just care that it doesn't serve their agenda. So even though, Matt, you are right that the precedents of the precedents of the library case should be in favor of crypto, and I hope it wins out. Don't expect the government and Gary Gensler to give up that easily. They're going to fight tooth and nail because that's what we're in. And again, I want to stress this. It's partially a compliment to how powerful the crypto community is and how good crypto is that the government feels so impassioned about fighting it. I mean, again, when we were watching that congressional hearing with Jerome Powell, they're talking about finance. Crypto kept coming up. Like the amount of talk in Washington, D.C. that cryptocurrency gets is a proof that they are terrified of it. It is here to stay. The question is, what does it look like? That's why we have to make our voices heard every single day. That's why, like we talk about here on YouTube, and Kelly mentioned this yesterday on his channel as well, and I cannot agree more. I say it here all the time. Make sure you guys are watching and liking and commenting and subscribing to every crypto channel you can. Make sure you're writing to your congressman. Make sure you're on social media platforms. Why? Because we need to show the world that crypto is here to stay and the decentralized form of it is here to stay. Government will continue to try to steal power as long as the people allow them to take that power. That's the problem. Yes, they're taking power from us all the time, but what they do is they feed us these little cookies to put us to sleep, and then they steal the power and we don't even know what happened. We have got to wake up. We've got to make our name known. When I say like the video, when I say subscribe to the channel, when I say comment down below, I'm not even only talking about for our benefit here on the channel, although it does absolutely help. I'm even talking about a statement to YouTube, a statement to Google, a statement to the US government, a statement to the powers that be, that cryptocurrency, this is something that's here. It's something to stay. Stop trying to censor us. Stop trying to make our voices quiet. You are not going to just get away taking authority and power away from us without, like, if you're going to try to fight crypto, we're going to try to fight you. We're going to do it respectfully. I don't believe in anything illegal. I don't believe in there's a lot of stuff coming out. I'm not going to get into the details and the political nature of the storming. I don't believe in violently going after the government, but I think that there's a lot of things still within our legal power to fight the government from taking our rights, our freedoms, and ultimately hurting us and trying to take our power away from us. Make sure your voice is heard. And again, it's silly, it's little, it's weird, but one of the ways you can do that is, again, subscribing, commenting, liking, viewing every piece of crypto content you can find out there. Make sure that you guys are doing that. You know, that is about all the content we have for today. I do know we got to kind of wrap up and make sure it's a hard stop at 10 o'clock today. Piper's still working. You're working to get out and fully be retired from the military.
Yeah, I got my Army shirt underneath this. I got to throw my blouse top on and get out the door. Yeah. So I'm down here below. I'm wearing all my Army uniform. I got stuff to do.
Yeah. We're closing up. We got about a minute left here. I want to make sure. I always forget to announce this. But I want to make sure you guys know, tonight I will be on Around the Blockchain. So first of all, let me get the applause, Piper, for Tim remembering an announcement. There we go. Thank you. Yes, I always forget. I always forget to let you guys know what I'm doing on other channels. Make sure you guys go join and show support with the +1 Tims tonight over on Around the Blockchain. Also, on the Chart Prime YouTube channel, there's going to be a video coming out you do not want to miss. Army Piper recorded a fantastic video on almost like a cheat sheet on what you can add to your trading portfolio using just one of the indicators on Chart Prime. That should be coming out either later today or tomorrow. Make sure you guys keep an eye out for it. And last thing I will say also, remember today, 3 to 4, we have in our Investing Bros Discord a webinar with Elliot Nachi, an Elliott Waves, Fibonacci, and Chart Prime expert. And he's going to show you all the tools and tricks you're going to need to maximize your trading. But you got to be in the Investing Bros Discord. It's absolutely free. Go to the link down below, sign up for it. Make sure you guys go get that deal on Chart Prime. Make sure if you are going to Bitcoin 2023 also, you go get those tickets right now. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but tonight the prices go up. So if you have plans to go to Bitcoin 2023, you got to go get that today. There's a link down below for 10% off. With that said, though, it is 10 a.m. That is the end of this week's piece of content here on the Investing Bros. Everyone in Discord, I will see you over there. Piper will see you over there. The rest of you, we will see you Monday with T-Shroom being back. On your way out, smash that like button. And again, if you are new here, thank you for joining us. Subscribe to the channel. We will see you next Monday. You guys have a great weekend.